Died, divorced, beheaded, survived!
Hey, I can't believe he beheaded 2 of his wives. That's crazy.
Henry VIII was born at Greenwich Palace in London on the 28th of June 1491. He was the second son of King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York.
In the 15th century, it was common for children to die young from illnesses such as smallpox.
Or the plague?
Yeah, or the plague. So the king and queen were very happy to have a sort of backup son to secure the still fragile Tudor dynasty.
It was actually Henry's older brother, Arthur, who was the direct heir to the throne. So Henry was brought up to be a senior churchman rather than the king. What that actually meant was that Henry was allowed a whole lot more fun.
Henry's favourite subjects were Latin, maths, astronomy and music. He also learned 4 languages: English, French, Latin and Spanish.
The sport he liked best was hunting stags. Sometimes he wore out up to 8 horses a day.
He was famous for his bright red gold hair, which made him look very handsome, as well as a big hit with the ladies.
Henry also had something called a whipping boy, who was the one who got punished every time Henry did something wrong.
That sounds brilliant. Will you be my whipping boy? We all think we know what Henry VIII looked like, but do we really know? Let's have a look. Oh, that's a rather nice silk shirt.
I found the trousers! Oh wow, so okay, the back of these trousers are a bit like a corset. They've got a whole lacy up bit.
I mean, they actually feel fine, but then I am a girl.
Right, there's a jacket that goes over. Belt.
This belt would be to slim down his ever-expanding stomach.
Oh, hello. Look at these shoes.
Now, how could someone with such an enormous outfit on wear such tiny ballerina shoes? Oh.
Now, the final bit. The hat. And can you do kingly things in it, like fencing?
See, that's quite good.
Is it? Riding horses. How about some dancing?
Yeah, the shoes again really do the trick.
So for kingly things, actually, those shoes and tights are quite good.
No wonder he chopped people's heads off. He must have got very hot and bothered all the time.
All the time. On April 22nd, 1509, Henry's father died. Because Henry's older brother Arthur had died a few years earlier, Henry became king at the age of just 17.
It turned out to be one of the most amazing reigns in this country's history. For a lot of it, he lived here at Hampton Court.
Hampton Court Palace was Henry's favourite royal residence of all. In just 10 years, he spent more than £62,000 rebuilding and extending it. That's about £18 million in today's money.
Welcome to the Great Hall, ladies. Wow. The largest and most magnificent chamber in the whole of King Henry's palace. This place is designed to let you know everything you need to know about how wealthy the king is, how powerful the king is, about his right to reign over us.
What about the tapestries?
Well, if you want to show that you're wealthy, buy tapestries. His Majesty the King has quite a collection, some 2,200 of them, but these are the most magnificent. They're made of wool, silk, but what really, really makes them valuable is that they are sewn through with spun gold thread. Every single ambassador, nobles from foreign lands, churchmen, pass through this room on their way to see the king, and they cannot be left unaware of just how wealthy and powerful King Henry is.
So like buying a fast car nowadays or something like that?
Only a lot more expensive.
Or some nice clothes.
Only a lot more expensive. But there's also a warning in here, and that's a warning about how you are expected to behave whilst you are at court. If you look up above you here, do you see the figureheads that look down at you off each of the beams? They are called eavesdroppers, and they are there to remind you that wherever you go at court, you should watch what you say. Anybody making any treasonable comment, there is somebody at court to hear.
Oh, it's a shiver to go down my spine when you say that.
Let us think upon Queen Anne, King Henry's second wife, for she was accused on 25 separate counts of treason. And this place was finished just as she was executed, and the whole place had been decorated for her. So all around here on the screen, there are A's and H's painted together in loving knots. And in the 11 days between her execution and the King's marriage to his next wife, Jane Seymour, the workmen had to come back here and take down all those decorations and destroy them.
How annoying.
But there is one left. And if you'd like to follow me, I'll show it to you.
How exciting.
The only thing left from Queen Anne.
Oh, I can see it.
There it is.
The A.
H and A.
Intertwined.
Intertwined for all time.
Did the workman just forget to take that one off?
Possibly, or more likely, there was something hanging in front of this part of the
Or
screen. we
maybe
didn't see.
Henry was still in love with her and just wanted his secret little reminder in the corner when he was remembering her.
He had a funny way of showing he was still in love with her.
But I think he felt quite sorry after he executed her.
For about 11 days before he married his next wife.
Excess is what Henry was all about. And the extravagance of life at Hampton Court can clearly be seen here in the Tudor kitchens, which are pretty much the same now as they were 500 years ago, when Henry was alive.
A head chef, 12 other chefs and 12 helpers sweated away right here, probably chopping the carrots right on this table day and night to feed the piggy demands of Henry's household of 1,200 people. The kitchens consisted of a staggering 50 rooms with 15 separate departments, including the butchery, the custard room and the confectionery where they made all the puddings.
So it's been recorded that in 1531, in November, Henry and all his friends ate, listen to this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. 24 cows, 100 sheep, 51 deer, 91 pigs, 700 chickens,
700?
440 pigeons, 160 swans, and 4,000 larks.
That's just ridiculous.
Can you believe that?
How can you eat that many larks?
The reason we're dressed like this is not just for fun.
No, it's to learn how to be Tudor cooks.
Ania, take about 6 almonds.
Oh, very specific.
And you will chop them for me, nice and fine. Fran, you have some greenery to sort through. Each course will have about 20 dishes in it.
20?
Be here all day.
You will indeed. What do you expect? We need to prepare the loaf.
I can't get the nuts out of the bowl.
What's the matter with your fingers, girl?
Oh, can I use my fingers?
What are they there for?
Oh, yeah, right, they're there to get the nuts out of the bowl, right.
Take the whole of the top off. That has to be kept.
The bread feels quite hard, a bit stale.
I want you to fetch the chicken from the fire.
Oh, it's hot. What is in its bottom? Stuffing?
A lettuce.
Oh, I've got it! And the onion with cloves in. Is it cloves?
It is indeed. Not too much. Otherwise we have no room for the chicken.
Of course.
Fine.
So bring the pie to the meat or the meat to the pie.
As you like, it makes little difference.
It's so tempting.
Oh, wait.
I feel like taking some, but I won't.
Just a little bit more. Now the lid on.
I think I'd quite like being a cook in Tudor times. Ta-da!
Got it on.
It's like a chicken surprise. You think it's a loaf of bread, but actually it's a chicken and leaf surprise.
And here we are.
I don't want to do the rabbit.
They both have to be prepared for cooking.
feel like crying.
Look at his creepy eyes. Look, look.
I feel like I want to become a vegetarian.
You will skin that rabbit.
I will not.
Now you've got to take his jacket off.
Jacket?
Take it.
How can you be so heartless?
Don't cry.
Oh, I find this so sad. Well, I do.
You pull it off like that.
Like a pair of socks.
That's it. This you may find worse than doing the skinning. You've got to take his guts out.
I think I might be
That we
sick.
don't want.
The thing is, you eat things like calves liver or pork chop or whatever all the
Right.
time.
He doesn't. I feel like I'm
There
retching.
you are.
If I offered you money, how much would you eat that for?
Nothing.
How much money? £1 million?
I wouldn't eat it for $1 million.
You wouldn't eat that for £1 million. Don't be sick, it's fine. Okay, come on, let's do it. Let's finish. Henry VIII is waiting.
Right.
Okay.
We'll hold the bird in that direction with its head down, right?
I hate the way its head dangles.
And you take the feathers and you pull them in this direction because they're going to be...
I hate that noise. It's the noise. It's the noise that does it.
Plucking massive eyebrows. Think of the pain.
Right.
Do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, every time I do it, it makes me shiver all the way down. It feels like when you like pluck grass out of, or pluck weeds up. Do you know what I mean?
I dare you to pull one of the long ones out. Yes.
No, these ones.
Go on.
Okay. They're going to be hard to pluck. Aren't they? Oh, I don't know where to... I can't! No, I can't! Now it's falling off! I don't want to touch its leg!
You know how I said that being a Tudor cook would be quite fun?
Yeah.
I don't think I can handle it. I don't think I can handle it emotionally.
I just can't handle it anyway.
Maybe let's not do it anymore.
The Tudors were so into their food that they even invented a whole new course called the banquet course, what we now call dessert or pudding. Do you know, it was even trendy at the time for rich women to deliberately blacken their teeth to make them look rotten. That meant they were rich enough to afford sugar.
I'm a real lady. Henry VIII is most famous for having 6 wives. His first marriage was to Catherine of Aragon, his brother's widow, in 1509. They had a daughter together called Mary, but not the precious son and heir to the throne that Henry was so desperate for.
So instead, Henry decided he wanted to marry someone else, Anne Boleyn. The thing was, the church didn't allow divorce, not even for a king. But Henry wasn't going to let that stop him, oh no. So he decided instead to embark on a plan that was to be one of the most radical religious reforms this country had ever seen.
At the beginning of Henry's reign, England was a Catholic country, with the Pope in Rome at the head of the church. Henry was a devout Catholic and defended the church against the other main religion of Protestantism.
However, all this changed once Henry's queen could no longer have children, and he needed a son to become king after him. Henry wanted a divorce, but the Pope wouldn't grant him one.
So Henry's archbishop granted him one instead. Henry made himself head of the Church of England with a law called the Act of Supremacy, which was passed in Parliament in 1534.
It effectively ended the power the Pope had had over the country for centuries.
All this because Henry was so desperate for a son.
Yeah, Anne Boleyn was supposed to be really striking looking though, if a bit grumpy. Anyway, Henry didn't seem to mind. He married her anyway, and she soon produced a daughter who went on to become the famous Queen Elizabeth I.
Yeah, but still no son.
Yeah.
So Anne was not to remain queen for much longer. In 1536, Henry met a sweet, quiet girl called Jane Seymour, so he beheaded Anne.
Much more convenient than divorce, apparently.
Apparently.
Perhaps we should take a break, Your Majesty.
No! We will only finish this game when I know for sure that Anne is dead. That witch has cast a spell on me for far too long. I will only be free when she's gone for good.
Are you sure you're doing the right thing, my lord? It's just that you did go to quite a lot of effort to make her queen. What with changing the country's entire religion and... No, I'm sure you're right. They do say she's got that extra finger on her hand after all.
Exactly! And she promised me a son and delivered a daughter. A sure sign from God that she is my unlawful wife.
So, got your eye on anybody else, Your Majesty?
Yes, actually. A very nice girl called Jane. What a different creature she is from that conniving little madam. Do you know that Anne was cheeky enough to write to me from the tower? Listen to this. You have chosen me from low estate to be your queen and companion, far beyond my desert or desire. Now she says that!
But the letter didn't really do much good, because on the 19th of May 1536 the Queen's head was chopped off, right here creepily enough, at Tower Green at the Tower of London.
An expert swordsman was brought in from Calais to deliver a clean blow with a sharp sword instead of the normal axe. It was the very first execution of an English queen. After the beheading of his second wife, Anne Boleyn, Henry lived here in Hampton Court with wife number 3, Jane Seymour.
They eventually had the son that Henry had yearned for, hooray! But tragically, just 2 weeks later, Jane died on October 24th, 1537.
Apparently he was really sad when she died, so maybe he was a bit of a softie after all.
Yeah.
I reckon we should go to Ben the Brain Box to find out a bit more about it.
Okay, brilliant.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're quite surprised that Henry was so upset when Jane Seymour died. Did he really love her?
I think he did. Henry, although he was married so many times, actually craved the love of one woman. That he got married so many times was an accident, and even more so that Jane died. She was just the kind of woman that he liked. She was dutiful and submissive to him and didn't answer back like some of his other wives. He was genuinely upset. She'd given him everything, love and a male heir, which he'd wanted so much.
So you think it would have lasted if she'd lived?
I think so, yes. She was just the kind of character that Henry liked, so yes, I think the marriage would have survived.
Because I think that's quite surprising. Like, we always think of Henry as this, like, quite arrogant, like, standing there with his hands on his hips. But are you saying he was actually, like, quite a romantic?
He was a romantic. He wrote love poetry. He was very religious. He liked that kind of courtly love and being in the ideal marriage. Unfortunately, that ideal marriage never came, but when it did, there was that unfortunate death of poor Jane.
So after Jane Seymour, that's why he looked for wife number 4?
He took a while to get over Jane's death, but then he wanted to go on and marry again.
Because you'd think he might just give up and think, oh, I'm just going to be single. But he didn't, did he?
This time, rather than marry for love, he was going to marry for politics. He was going to marry for his country. Because England needed a friend in Europe, and the way to do that was by marrying the daughter of another king or another great ruler.
But if she was from another country, like miles away, how did he choose her?
Exactly, he would never see her before the marriage, there was no photographs,
Yeah.
so they had to send out painters to find the right woman. The first time they would meet would be on the wedding day, so
Yeah.
there's no way that they'd know if they were right for each other.
Bit of a risk.
He took a big gamble on doing his duty for England.
It's like a very risky blind date.
Very
The
risky.
ultimate blind date.
Thanks, then.
Thanks.
Are you all right for books?
I'm doing fine for books, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I've told you I like Christina of Milan. She's very fair and said to be very clever for her age.
I understand that, my lord, but a marriage between you is impossible. It's not just that she's politically of no use. She also said that, well, if she had 2 heads, she'd risk it, but since she's only got 1, she won't. How about the sisters of the Duke of Cleves? We must consider the current political situation, my lord. Now that we've broken away from the Pope, we're isolated from both France and Spain. We need to make new Protestant friends.
But how will I know if they're fair?
In the same way that you found Christina of Milan to your liking, we'll send the royal painter, Hans Holbein, to paint the sisters of the Duke of Cleves, Anne and Amelia. Then you can pick the one you like the most.
All right. Holbein does have a talent for capturing a person's likeness, I suppose. And when I have followed my heart when choosing a bride, things haven't turned out so well, so I suppose there's no harm in giving this a try. The result was that Henry agreed to marry Anne of Cleves just from her picture, even though they had never actually met. When she arrived, he was quite keen to find out what she was like.
But it didn't all go according to plan. She behaved a bit rudely to the weird old man who waddled in to see her. It turned out to be Henry in disguise. Dolt! And he waddled out again, shouting,
I like her not.
He is said to have found her hideously ugly.
You have sent me a Flanders mare.
He spluttered, rather cruelly, I think. Not surprisingly, the marriage only lasted 6 months.
Henry didn't hang around for long, though. Just 16 days after he divorced Anne of Cleves, he married a girl 30 years younger than him called Catherine Howard.
Thing is, by this time, it was 1540, and Henry wasn't just old and fat. He was also cross at everyone all the time. Not surprisingly, Catherine was soon suspected of being unfaithful. When Henry found out, he played his usual trick. It was off with her head.
Many claim that she still haunts this corridor at Hampton Court. She's been said to run through the corridor screaming at night.
Boop!
Let's go.
Henry always liked his posh food and his fine wine, but towards the end of his life, he really became a beast. Anya, demonstration, please?
So, this is how massive his stomach would have been. Well, maybe not this massive, but about 1.5 meters all the way around.
Yeah, in the end, he weighed 21 stone. His servants had to hoist him up and down the stairs with an elaborate set of pulleys. Try again? That's rubbish. But however ill Henry got, he never gave up his search for the perfect girl, bless him. Some say he found her when he married Catherine Parr in 1543 at the age of 52. She was the one who nursed him in his old age.
Due to the injuries he received when he was crushed by a horse at a jousting competition, Henry was now an invalid. His health was getting worse and worse because of his overindulgent lifestyle.
That was it for him. On 28th of January 1547, Henry died. Even though he had been quite mean to people, his death was actually marked by a massive public outpouring of grief. Henry was survived by his 3 children, Edward, Mary and Elizabeth, all of whom went on to become king or queen at some point or another.
What an incredible life Henry had. From dashing young prince to grumpy old man.
Yeah, there was never anything boring about Henry, never anything dull. We reckon he's the most memorable king of all time.
Maybe not the best husband of all time, though.
15 seconds on Henry VIII, go!
Henry VIII became king at the age of 17 after his brother died. He changed the church so he could use the money to buy tapestries and loads of food. He loved eating, especially birds. 700 pigeons and 4,000 larks. He liked marrying birds too. He had 6 birds. Stop!